I'm going to go across to somebody who understands e-commerce so very well in this country, Ganesh, who is joining us live on this edition of Startup Central. Good evening, Mr. Ganesh. It's always a pleasure talking to you. When we were thinking about who to reach out to, I said it has to be Ganesh. Tell us what you think of that press release put out by the government late night. Of course, all those with the skin in the game have some time to respond. And I want to go one by one. Beginning first with this filter that e-commerce companies have to, may need to start implementing to provide alternative goods, made in India goods as a suggestion in case the consumer is looking at something which is imported. First up, is this feasible to roll out in a quickly?
Yeah. Firstly, before I get to that question, thank you for having me here. And let me cover it first at the macro level. Given the size and scale of the e-commerce industry and the way it is going, especially the tailwinds of pandemic, it's very important that government spells out the rules and regulations clearly and unambiguously. And I'm very happy to see the consultative process that they are taking all the stakeholders into account. And also, it's very important that it's not being done with retrospective effect, like in the past it happened with angel tax and all that. That created a lot of angst. So very, very welcome to see the process being followed and how it is being done. In terms of specific items in this, many of them are extremely welcome, are needed because of the kind of issues that happens on the internet, on the cyberspace, lack of clarity, lack of ownership. Therefore, they are really welcome. Somebody has to stand up and protect the consumer's interest, and that has to be the government, and that's the right thing to do. Now, some of the items there, to me, feel slightly draconian. I'm hoping it is not really so, as more clarifications are coming up and people are doing. Just for example, providing alternative goods for an imported item is not something the government should be regulating. It is just not feasible. As it is, e-commerce companies are losing millions and millions of dollars. They are creating a new sector, changing consumer behavior, giving discounts, making shopping convenient for consumers. Now, piling on top of that additional constraints, right, is onerous. We obviously need certain regulations. So I think things like, for example, Indian alternative domestic supplier, it may not be available. That is not my job as the e-commerce player. Okay, I can list the country of origin wherever possible, but beyond that we should not do. So many of these, or even the 72-hour deadline to give response, unless it is a life or death situation, unless it's a critical situation, I mean, companies will respond. They have millions of users, millions of sellers trying to respond within 72 hours to government on some query because some consumer complaint or a trade body complaint. That is not feasible. Hopefully the 72 hours will get revised and all of that stuff. But overall, welcome move, great consultative process, non-retrospective process to protect the consumer interest. It's all good and positive. Some of the individual items need to be really looked at so that we are not going back to license raj, lot of control, and making it unfair for people to do business.
Mr. Ganesh, I want to ask you that some of the things that you're seeing at the moment, which you said are for the consumer's perspective as well, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. Can it also be because, you've seen statements in the past which might allude to that, or the various investigations that are being suggested from various agencies, that the government is not convinced that all e-commerce companies are truly providing a fair marketplace or behaving like a marketplace? Which is why, they're asking for alternatives, which is why they're also saying that, you have to display prominently MRPs. Now, in a true marketplace, it's up to the seller. How can let's say, the e-commerce companies we all use, like Amazon or the Flipkarts or the Nykas, start getting into MRPs?
Yeah, no, so that's a valid question. So government is completely right in assuming that not everybody behaves fairly and correctly. There are a lot of fly-by-night operators, I'm sure, not a lot, there are many fly-by-night operators. Because internet and cyberspace gives the anonymity, the internet fraud and cyber fraud are multiple times the order of magnitude of physical brick and mortar frauds, because you will have to physically go there. Therefore, it's very easy for somebody to create a Shopify site and defraud people and take money from people and not be answerable. Therefore, government is absolutely right in assuming that and trying to protect the consumer. There is nothing wrong. Now, MRP, it has been standards always that MRP has to be mentioned on a product. So it's fine to do it. It's a pain, but it's fine. But I can define my MRP for this particular shirt the way I want to define it. So it is okay. Some of it is loss of the land. Some of it is something that has been there for times immemorial. So is it needed? Can it be simplified? It's a much broader question than simply is it a e-commerce or e-tail question. So we can live with that. But definitely there has been misuse and fraud and challenge. For example, one of the things is that people have used related parties and use the related parties to give huge discounts and have done backdoor entry in a true marketplace to be able to promote the brand. For example, I don't want to name the aggregator. One of the food aggregators had their own kitchens. Now, if the food aggregator gets billions of dollars of funding and has got hundreds of millions of traffic, and in addition to all the kitchens the aggregator is listing on their platform, also has their own kitchens, they can unfairly promote their own kitchens in the app and thereby pushing it. Now, we can debate whether it is fair, unfair, legal, illegal, but the fact is it is not a fair dealing. So some of it comes under Fair Practices Act, Restrictive Trade Practices Act. So we need to be cognizant of that. That is lot more than just e-commerce policy. It is a policy of restrictive trade practice should not be allowed. Free market practice has to be allowed. So government is right in doing that, but I do hope that they don't go overboard in the other thing. That's why I hope the consultative process would yield to a good balance between consumer protection, between the needs of the business, and between free market trade. Ultimately, remember, all the benefits that has accrued to the consumer, has accrued to the person where millions of people have been employed here. Foreign capital has come in, it has been used to discount heavily. But who benefited? You and I benefited as an employee in those companies, or as employment generation for the country, or as discount and convenience. How inconvenient would have been for a moment. We go back to 10 years, 15 years back. There was no e-commerce, there was no food aggregators. How difficult would life have been? And how much more expensive would goods be?
Okay. Right. So, you brought up the question about how one of the food aggregators running cloud kitchens, Zomato, for example, was providing infrastructure for others and saying this is cloud kitchen. Swiggy was, of course, running cloud kitchens. But, I don't want to get into that. My point is that how will this also be viewed, Mr. Ganesh? Because, at the end of the day, you're finally starting to see consolidation in the space. You're also starting to see exits. You've been involved with Big Basket, for example, and what a fabulous exit you have seen there by the founders to Tata's. You got Zomato, which, was the first of these unicorns to file a DRHP, a $1.1 billion IPO. The question I'm trying to get at is that this is the year where the startups are coming of age. You're seeing good exits and all of that is taking place, whether by the public markets or other transactions. Do you think this can temper all of that? Because now suddenly you'll have so much uncertainty.
No, I don't think this will temper at all, because this is like a rocket ship that's taking off. You cannot stop this. The convenience that the consumer gets, online shopping, internet shopping, the convenience, the price, the discounts, you cannot take away. Even the existing companies, old economic companies, brick and mortar companies are using hybrid model, are using online model. You have heard about Tata Super App trying to do consolidation. We are talking about Jio, which has acquired companies to be able to do that. So this is a wave that has started. You cannot put the genie back in the box. So I don't see. What it helps is that the consumer will get protected. Some of these regulations are very important. It's a government job to do it. It will increase the trust of the consumer. It will ensure that the fly-by-night operators are restricted from operating. All of that will help the established, genuine, non-fly-by-night operator startups, e-commerce companies, and brick and mortar companies and large corporates that want to enter the sector. Any such tremendous scaling like e-commerce has seen will attract fly-by-night operators who need to be curbed, and it is the job of the government to do it. without getting overboard into a license raj and regulation kind of a situation, and be careful about what they are regulating and what they are not regulating. Once you strike a balance, this will benefit all the companies, including the companies doing IPO and exit. It will benefit because this will become a proper, formal, regulated, understood sector. And the stability of policies, clear-cut, unambiguous, non-retrospective policies help always the industry and the genuine players in the industry. Obviously, fly-by-night operators will suffer.
Okay. Mr. Ganesh, it's such a pleasure to always talk to you. Thanks so much for putting this in perspective, from the consumer's point of view, investor point of view, the way things are going to happen in the public markets, and of course the suggestions for the government. Thank you so much for your time, and I think, and hopefully we'll be meeting again on this show in a couple of days. Our expectation is that the market regulator will be approving Zomato's DRHP any day, and we would love to have you on the channel that day as well.
Thank you.